The paper I am going to present is called Synthesizing Solutions. Through the medium of plastics, the paper explores the design ideology of socialist countries and how such ideology could be adopted for use in today's day and age. Look around you. Try and observe the number of plastic objects in the room you are currently seated in. Try and think about all the objects you have used today. How many were made of plastic? Plastic is ubiquitous in our lives today. It can be called as the definitive material of the 20th century. Most of these plastic objects around you were designed by individuals like me, industrial designers. I find plastic to be a wonderful material. However, it has gained a tainted reputation of being an environmental hazard. Why is this so? My belief is it is because we are using a material which lasts forever to make stuff we dispose of after using only once. Allow me to elaborate. Take a look at the production loop of plastic. Recycling of plastic leaves behind a considerable carbon footprint due to all the steps involved. Recycling merely delays the point at which material becomes waste. Recycling is a commendable habit. However, our goal should be that of wasting less, not just recycling more. The image on my side represents a hierarchy of value. It tries to communicate how the utility of a product can be extended. A product that is shared maximizes its utility, followed by refurbishing, reusing, or finding alternative uses, and lastly, recycling. Our economic system needs a change in goals. The objective of the system should not be the creation of more stuff, but rather the creation of better stuff. So, how is any of this linked with socialism? This brings us to the Communist German Democratic Republic, the GDR, also known as East Germany. The GDR's utilization of plastic is a stark contrast to how it is used today. Post the Second World War, East Germany found themselves in dire straits. It was a poor nation with few natural resources and no colonies to exploit. Unlike the Marshall Plan in West Germany, the Soviets did not provide GDR with any financial backing. What they did have was a strong chemical industry. The 1950s saw the ascent to power of Khrushchev within the Soviet Union. He began to transform the Eastern Bloc politically, culturally, and economically. It was within this political environment that in 1958 the GDR government announced a campaign named the Chemistry Program. This program would power the consumer turn of East Germany. As the chemistry program began, a plethora of plastic products began appearing on shelves. However, due to limited resources, these products were always short in supply. What is interesting is that in the West, overproduction of plastic goods made plastic to be perceived as being of low value. In the GDR, demand exceeding supply led to plastic products being perceived as greatly valuable. All GDR plastic products were designed with durability being of prime importance due to material shortages and economic policies. The rise of modernist design within the GDR begins with the reappearance of a number of former Bauhaus disciples. The enduring Bauhaus ideology had been that design should reflect the times. The advent of a socialist state meant that the era of rationality and functionalism had finally been ushered in. In the end, East Germany was never a successful state. Many steps were taken to stabilize the plastic industry over the years with limited success. The crux of the problem was something called ton ideology. The planning for their plastic secondary and tertiary processing meant coordinating thousands of different products with hundreds of different production technologies and processes. The big primary plastics and chemical factories were essentially input output equations, manifestations of the kind of brute math at which planned economies were scaled. Calculating that X ton of ethylene or phenol would result in Y tons of polyethylene or phenol plastics was something that planners could handle. But calculating how many Y tons of polyethylene would result in Z tons of cones, Z1 tons of buckets, Z2 tons of ice cube trays, Z3 tons of toothed gear wheels for radio alarm clocks, and so on was difficult to the point of being impossible. Let us now look at some plastic items of everyday use within the GDR. On the left is a bucket designed by Hubert Petras. On the right is a shopping basket designed by Albert Kraus. Both objects comply with the GDR ideology that concise, streamlined, precise, simple, and light are adjectives that correspond to the beauty of things. Both examples have no ornamentation. They appear to be a highly economic use of the material optimized for production considering the manufacturers of the time. An apt comparison between the design ideology of the Eastern Bloc and the West during this time period is between the work of Klaus Dietl and Raymond Loewy. Here on the left, we observe the 1966 Wartburg 353 designed by Dietl. On the right is the 1963 Studebaker Avanti designed by Loewy. The Wartburg has a plain form with multiple cost-saving plastic elements and has earned the nickname of trustworthy Hans in the Soviet bloc. Alas, its comfort was negated because of the GDR technology and material limitations, making it a high emission liability. In contrast, observe the visually loud two-seater Avanti. The aim of the designers was to create a prestige car. Louis boasted of it not having a single straight line, making it dynamic in appearance, but this also meant a larger utilization of fiberglass and very complex tooling. The movement for sustainability in designed products has been gaining momentum in recent times. Attention in the domain has predominantly focused on closing the material gap, going from new to recycled and almost new again. A factor that requires greater attention is maintaining the value of a product over time, starting with a strong proposition and nourishing it in order to keep it alive. On the slide, we have 6 design strategies for products that last. Design for attachment and trust. This is the holy grail for designers. It is near impossible to design with only this strategy in mind, as many complex socio-economic factors beyond the control of the designer influence its success. The reappearance of GDR designs in Germany today is termed as nostalgia or nostalgia for the East. It is not just older, former East Germans who are purchasing these products, but people from across the country and beyond, even those born after the fall of the Berlin Wall. The classic chicken shaped plastic egg cups are even more popular in present day Germany than at the height of the GDR regime. Design for durability. Durability was a hallmark of all GDR products. There is an interesting anecdote from design historian Gunter Hune in an interview where he speaks of an incident at a Leipzig trade fair. On observing the sturdiness of East German textile, West German buyers turned it down. They were worried that it would last many years and reduce return customers and income from maintenance. Today, brands such as Buy Me Once use this strategy by offering a lifetime warranty on their products. Design for standardization and compatibility. Modern examples are toys from Lego and Meccano. An interesting example can be observed in the image on the slide. Designed by Fuse Project, it is a series of unbreakable plastic spectacle frames with easy swap color options that are to be distributed free of charge to underprivileged school children in Mexico. Designed for ease of maintenance and repair. A prime example here is the Mokik S50 moped designed by Klaus Dietl in 1967. These can still be spotted on the road today. The moped is designed so that even an untrained individual could safely open, repair, and even customize the vehicle's components. I would say that it even fits into the next two categories I will introduce. Design for adaptability and upgradability. A modern example is the recent hype for modular cell phones. The most utopian is the phone blocks concept by Dave Hackins. Phone blocks was a speculative work that managed to gauge user demand for modular phones. Phone makers are now attempting to fulfill such a demand. An example is the Fairphone, made using ethical raw materials and built for easy repair and disassembly. The most ambitious example was Google's Project Ara, which attempted to create an ecosystem for modular components by collaborating with a wide range of electronic manufacturers. Their attempt was sadly abandoned in 2016. Design for dis and reassembly. One example in this category stands far above the rest in application of this principle. The sinisterly notorious Kalashnikov or AK-47 assault rifle. It was designed in Soviet Russia just after World War II and was inducted into the Soviet Red Army. Over 75 million AK-47s have been produced around the world since then. Not to mention another 100 million unlicensed versions derived from the original AK-47 design. The design is so simple and effective that, unlicensed, even homemade versions can be found on the black market across the world, making the AK-47 a favorite weapon among terrorist networks. To conclude, I want to speak about not just plastics but about the means of production in the future. Karl Marx suggests in The Fragment on Machines that once knowledge becomes a productive force in its own right, outweighing the actual labor spent on creating a machine, the big question becomes not one of wages versus profit, but who controls this power of knowledge. These musings were not published till 1973. Marx imagined information coming to be stored and shared in something called a general intellect, the mind of everybody on earth connected by social knowledge, with every upgrade benefiting everybody. In short, he had imagined something close to the information economy we live in today. And he said that its existence would blow capitalism sky high. Today, we are seeing the spontaneous rise of collaborative production. Goods, services, and organizations are appearing that no longer respond to the dictates of the market and the managerial hierarchy. These collectives use network technology to produce goods and services that only work when they are free or shared. Physicist Ilya Prigozhin puts it beautifully. He says, when a system is far from equilibrium, small islands of coherence have the capacity to shift the entire system. Such collaborative manufacturing is of great interest to me as a designer. Even plastic products, the backbone of the manufacturing industry, can now be produced and recycled at a cottage industry level. Our priority now should be to develop such islands of coherence in our individual context and connect to other islands as the need arises. It is within such a new system that I hope to see more designers practicing. Thank you.